Unit 5, Lesson 2, this is multiplying and dividing algebraic fractions. So, we're going to go through this on the video. People in class who want to work on by themselves because they get it can use this video to support them. So you're going to see that I have this lesson set up. Level 2 problems, Level 3 problems, Level 4. Okay, we're going to, multiplying and dividing are essentially the same. So we're going to kind of keep them mixed together as opposed to separating them into problems for multiplying and problems for dividing. So let's just have a look really quickly at the warm-up, and we're going to see how we can transfer this. So firstly, let's look at how it works with normal fractions. So if you have 3/5 multiplied, or sorry, 3/5 multiplied by 3/4, well, you multiply the top. When you multiply two fractions, you multiply the top by the top, so in that case you get 9. And then you multiply the bottom by the bottom and you get 20. 9 over 20 as a fraction can't be simplified because there's no common factor between 9 and 20 that we can cancel. Now if you look at a division, what you do is you do what we call in middle school when you teach it, keep, change, flip. Okay, so you keep the first fraction 3/4, the division changes to a multiplication, and you flip the second fraction. Alright? And then you work it out, you'll see that the answer is 3 times 3 is 9 over 8. Okay, now C is again a multiplication, so it's minus 1/6 multiplied by 2/3. So the way that this one is going to work, you're going to have a negative answer because you're multiplying a negative number by a positive. So you're going to have negative 2 over 18. Now 2 is a common factor at the top and the bottom, so if you divide it out, you're going to get 1 over 9, and it's negative. And then finally, look at our last one. You have minus 5 over 6 divided by 3/7 means multiplied by 7 over 3. Top times top, you're going to get minus 35, bottom times bottom, over 18. So these were the three answers that I got. Okay, just highlighting them there for you quickly. So, basically, multiplying is top times top to get a new numerator. So I have it written down here to multiply. Top times top gives you the new numerator. Bottom times bottom gives the new denominator. And then you try to simplify it by crossing out common factors or by dividing out common factors. Divide, first fraction stays the same. You change the division to multiplication and you flip the other fraction upside down. And then you just do a normal multiplication. Okay, so let's have a look. So here's some level 2. So these are the basic ones. You have to know how to do to be able to pass this little piece. So, top times top, n squared times 6 gives you 6n squared. Bottom times bottom is 6n. Okay, so I just multiply top by top, bottom by bottom. Now the common factor, so it's 6 times n over 6 times n. You can cancel the 6 from both. You can cancel an n from both, so you just end up with n over 1, which is n. Second one, change back to blue. Okay, top times top, so that's 4. Why is that not writing in blue for me? Okay, 4 times d. And on bottom you have 8 times d. So the common factor of those is 4d, so the top is 4d, and the second one is 4 times 2 times d. 4 is cancelled, d is cancelled, so you've just left with a 2 on the bottom and you put a 1 on the top. Okay, so let's move to having a look at a couple of division ones. Right, for this one then, it's a division. So we're going to change the division to a multiplication. So we do keep, change, flip. Okay, and now you just do a normal multiplication as before. So you get on the top mn, the bottom 12. It's very straightforward. So when you see a division sign between two fractions, that's the rule, keep, change, flip. So let's look at the next one again. 6 over x, keep, change, flip. Now you do top times top, 6x squared over 2x. Now in this case there's something that can be simplified out. Common factor between the top and the bottom is 2x, so it's going to be on the top you're going to have 2 times 3 times x 2 times 3 is 6, x times x squared, over 2x. Now let's cancel out 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom cancel. X on the top, x on the bottom cancel. You're left with 3x on the top, and that's your answer. Now, so that's really simple, basic examples of division and multiplication. So let's look at them getting a little bit trickier now. So, here what we have again, it's a multiplication, so you just do top times top. So what we're going to have is 2x cubed times 10y. So you do the numbers by the numbers and the letters by the letters. So you're going to have 20x cubed y. 5 times 3 is 15. X squared, y squared. Now, because we've one term on the top, one term on the bottom, we can just expand this out. So if we look, what's common, it's going to be 5. So we can write the 20 as 5 times 4 times x times x times x times y. Okay? On the bottom, it's 5 times 3 times x times x times y times y. Now look, this is just a way of making sure you do it right. Some people will know straight away that what the common factor is, and they won't have to do this, and that's fine. But just if you're not sure, you can expand it when it's just one term on the top and one term on the bottom. You can open them up and cancel them out. So 5 and 5 are going to cancel. They cancel one x from the top with one from the bottom, another from the top, another from the bottom. No more x's to cancel, a y and a y. So what are you left with then? So on the top you're going to be left with 4x, and at the bottom you're going to be left with 3y. Okay, and that's your answer. 4x over 3y. Let's look at the next one. So again, let me see if I can move this up a little bit. So top times top, so 4 times 10 is 40 xy squared, which is going to be nothing to multiply the x by, but x squared times or y squared times y is y cubed. Now on the bottom, 6 times 3 is 18. Y squared times x cubed, well, we can just have to put them together as they are. There's no common letters, so we can't combine them straight up like that. Now if you look here, just for the sake of solving through it, what's common between 40 and 18? Well, it's going to be 2. So 2 times 20 times x times x. How many x's have we got? We've got 1 and 3 y's. Y, y, y. And on the bottom is going to be 2 times 9 times x times x times y times y times y. Alright? Now let's cancel things out that are in common. 2 and a 2. You have an x and an x. And you have the 3 y's on top, have 3 y's on the bottom to cancel with them. So what am I going to be left with on top? All that's left on top now is a 20. What's left on the bottom? 9x. And that's it. 20 over 9x is your answer. Now let's move on. So what have we got here? So here we have a division one. So I'm not going to go into the same level of detail in solving this one, but first I'm going to tell you that what we have to do to start it is 5xy squared over 7x cubed y. So that's the first fraction that stays the same. Division change to a multiplication and flip. Okay, keep change flip. Now, let's multiply across. 14 by 5 is 70. We have an x by an x cubed, which is an x to the 4, and a y squared with nothing to multiply, so it stays as y squared. On the bottom, 7 times 10, 70. X cubed with nothing to multiply it by, and y by y squared, which is y cubed. Okay, so now let's have a look. So if we look at that, if we were to expand it out, now just imagine expanding this, okay? You would have 70 and 4 x's and 2 y's, okay? And on the bottom you'd have 73 x's and 3 y's. So let's look at it, how it would work. The 70 and the 70 will cancel out, so they're both gone. Let's see what would be left on the top. Of the 4 x's on top, 3 of them would be cancelled because they would cancel with 3 x's on the bottom, so you're left with an x on the top. And now you'll be left with a y on the bottom because the y squared, those two would cancel with 2 y's in the bottom, but there'll be 1 left over on the bottom. So it'll be left as x over y like that. Okay, that might be tricky to think about, but just expand it the way I showed you before if you're not sure, and cross out what's in common. Quickly, let's look at the next one. So, you're going to do, to start it off, keep, change, flip. So 4x squared y squared over 9x cubed times, now you do the flip, 27xy all over 8y squared. Now, 4 times 27 is 108. X squared times x is x cubed. Y squared times y is y cubed. The bottom, 9 times 8 is 72. X cubed y squared. Now, for those who know, I know that not everybody will, 108 and 72, well, it's 3 over 2. So that's going to be written the same as being 3 over 2. 36 goes into 108 and 72. That's the common factor. Okay, now look at the x cubed and the x cubed will cancel. Now y cubed, that's 3 y's on top, 2 y's in the bottom. They cancel and you're left with 1 y left over on the top. So it's 3y over 2 is your answer. Okay? So now, to finish up, we're going to have a look at some level 4s, which will be on the next one. Okay, what's hard about this one is that you see the way on the top of the first one you have 5x plus 15. So there's 2 terms. And on the bottom of the second one there's 2 terms. So you have to think about factoring here. Okay, you don't just expand and cancel here. It's a bit like expanded, like list it out, open it up and cancel. It doesn't quite work like that here. So the top and the bottom of each one needs to be factored as much as possible. Okay, so if you look, 5x times plus 15, well, the common factor of 5x and 15 is 5. There's no letter in common, so it becomes 5x plus 3 over x. And then what you get is 2x squared. And on the bottom, x squared by x plus 3, so you have the common factor there is x by x plus 3. Alright, so now this is what you have. So let's see what happens if we put them together. Let's put them together. So we're going to have 5 times 2 is 10. Then we have an x squared. And we have an x plus 3. And then on the bottom, we have an x by an x, which is an x squared. And we have an x plus 3. Okay? So if you look at the top, our factors are 10, x squared, x plus 3. If you look at the bottom, our factors are x squared and x plus 3. The parentheses mean that the x and the plus 3 are together as one factor. So look, x squared is a factor of top and bottom, cancels. X plus 3 is a factor of top and bottom, cancels. And I'm left with 10 is my answer. Now you might say, why is that a level 4? There is the extra step of having to factor it out, and that will become a little bit more, progressively more difficult, as you'll see. So let's continue. Now let's look, top and bottom here need to be factored. Factoring is always what you're doing in these situations. So if you look at x squared minus 5x minus 14, so you need 2 numbers that multiply to give minus 14 and add to give minus 5. So they're minus 7 and plus 2. So it's x minus 7 by x plus 2. Okay? All over 4x squared. And then you're going to multiply that by 8x. Now if we know our factorization, which we have to be able to get a 4, x squared minus 49. Remember, I got something squared minus something squared. If you check back on our laws from before, a squared minus b squared equals parentheses a minus b, and the other parentheses a plus b. So this is going to be x minus 7, x plus 7. Now, look across the way here. We don't even have to combine them that much really. All you have to do to start Well, we will do, just we will, because it'll maybe make it a little bit easier. So let's look. Is there anything that we see straight away that's a factor the whole way across the top? So look, the top you have factors are x minus 7, x plus 2, 8x. The bottom you have 4x squared, x minus 7, x plus 7. There's one standout factor in common. It's the x minus 7. It's on the top and the bottom, we can cross it out. So now let's see what we've got left. 8x, x plus 2 on the top, 4x squared, x plus 7 on the bottom. Now, anything I can cancel? Well, 8 and 4 leaves you with a 2 on the top. And the x and x squared, well, you can cancel one from each, but you're left with an x on the bottom. And on the top you still have your x plus 2. Okay, there's your answer. So it's not quite as straightforward. You see, there's a bit more involved in these ones than we've had before. Okay, let's look. I'm pretty sure. Okay, so here's a division one. Now be careful because it's division. So when you see division sign, the first thing you do is keep change flip. Okay, so I'm going to write it out in the 2m squared minus 5m minus 7 all over 4m squared minus 9. And then, okay, so we're going to change the division to a multiplication, and we're going to flip it upside down. 2m squared plus 3m 5m squared plus 5m. So there's the first step, right? You get points for every single step that you do correctly. Okay, now let's try to factor all of these tops and see what can be cancelled out. So, going through the process, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but if you look at the 2m squared minus 5m minus 7, when you factor that, what do you think you're going to get? Well, go through the process, and your answer should be, so you should get 2m minus 7 over m plus 1. Now, again, using the law for the bottom of this, if you use the law that we used before, it's something squared minus something squared. So it's 2m in parentheses squared minus 3 in parentheses squared. So that's going to factor into 2m minus 3, 2m plus 3. Now let's look at the top here, the other side. Okay, so straight away a common factor. 2 isn't a factor, but m is, so it's m by 2m plus 3. And then 5m would be a factor at the bottom. Would be a factor, and you'd have m plus 1. Now, look straight across the board. Look at all those factors. 2m minus 7, m plus 1, m2, m plus 3, blah, blah, blah. They're all factors. They're all being multiplied by each other, so we can cancel out as we see something in common. So 2m minus 7 on the top, is there anything to go with that on the bottom? No. m plus 1 on the top, m plus 1 on the bottom, cancels. The m on its own, is there an m on its own? It's part of that. That can cancel, and 2m plus 3, 2m plus 3. So what have we got left over then? Well, on the top we're going to have just, right in blue, 2m minus 7. And on the bottom we have a 2m minus 3 and a 5. So I'm going to put the 5 to the front. That's your answer. Okay, nothing more we can do with that. Okay, so I think we just have a couple more to do and we're finished. So let's. Where are we? Alright, so let's have a look at this. So firstly, let's write it in the keep change flips format. So x squared minus 16y squared all over 3x squared minus 12xy. Now look, see the way the second one isn't a fraction. You can make it into a fraction by just putting it over 1, right? Okay, so when you don't see a fraction, you imagine that it is a fraction over 1, and then to do the keep change flip, you just turn that upside down. So instead of x squared plus 4xy over 1, it's going to be 1 over x squared plus 4xy. Now, the tricky part about a lot of this is that you have to remember how to factor these things. So for example, if you look at the top one there, there's no common factor. It's not a trinomial, so you can't do the plus two things and plus to get two things and multiply to get, or sorry, two numbers that add to give something and multiply to give something. But it is a difference of two squares. It's something squared minus something squared. It's x squared minus 4y squared. So the top one is going to factorize, becoming x minus 4y, x plus 4y. Now look at the bottom. It's not something squared because 3 isn't a square, 12 isn't a square, but look, there's a common factor. 3x, x minus 4y. Straight away we're seeing something that's happening. The 1 can't be factorized because it's just 1. Now look at the bottom here, you have x squared plus 4xy. It's x times x plus 4y. Now look at the big list of factors that you have. X minus 4y, x minus 4y. X plus 4y, x plus 4y. So what are you left with? You're left with 1 on top, 3x times x on the bottom, which is 3x squared. Okay, there you go, job done. So just work on these. There'll be some practice questions on this, like this, for the homework, okay? So just to get a 4, you have to be able to do these level 4 problems.